Welcome to the Friends of NPACE podcast, brought to you by Haleon. As a leading global consumer healthcare company, Haleon is dedicated to delivering better everyday health with humanity. Known for trusted brands like Advil, Excedrin, and Voltaren, Haleon leverages science, innovation, and human understanding. Haleon is proud to collaborate with NPACE to educate healthcare professionals about our pain portfolio and the latest healthcare information. For more information, visit www.haleonhealthpartners.com. Welcome to the Friends of NPACE podcast. My name is Josh Plotkin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of NPACE, and today we have a fantastic discussion taking place with Samara Bell. And Samara is an attorney specializing in all aspects of healthcare, transactional, and strategic matters with special focuses on mergers, acquisitions, and partnerships for physicians, dentists, veterinarians, and advanced practice providers. Samara earned her bachelor's in Native American Studies from Colgate University and her law degree from Suffolk University Law School. In her spare time, she enjoys volunteering with Lasagna Love, need to know more about that, and watching and playing sports with her husband and son. She actually just told me she was at the Patriots and Tampa game, which was a great game. And Samara works with Langia Law, and they are a fantastic firm helping advanced practice providers with all legal needs that they have. Samara, how are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm doing good.
Excellent. Well, all right. I just read your intro, and we're going to get into a fantastic conversation, but I need to know more about Lasagna Love and what that's all about before we get started.
Yeah, for sure. So Lasagna Love is a volunteer organization. It's in Massachusetts, but also across the country. And it's for helping people in need who have food insecurity. And so the only thing we make is lasagna because it freezes easily and it can last a week. So it's elderly people, people who, may come off an injury, also families in need too. And I, grew up making a lot of cooking, and so it's very easy for me to make a lasagna. And so I make and deliver lasagnas around the community.
Love it. That's great, and especially given what's going on with things in food insecurity right now, I think it's fantastic that you're involved with that. So check that out. But what we're here for today is talking about Langia Law and NPACE and the partnership that we have. And Samara, where I'd love to start is, can you give an overview of Langia Law and what the firm is doing for healthcare providers, and talk about some of the services that you have and what you're offering to them?
Sure, yeah. So we're a national firm. We're based all across the country. And what we do is we help healthcare providers either start a practice, purchase, sell a practice, grow a practice. We also review employment agreements, help people understand, what's in their employment agreement, negotiate those. But mainly we're here to help people kind of with their business dreams, starting, growing practices, keeping them compliant since everything's so state specific. And making sure we are checking all the regulatory boxes as they continue to grow.
Awesome. And so just to confirm, Langia Law is available to any advanced practice provider, no matter where they may be in the US.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. And then I guess just a question in terms of some of the folks that you're currently working with. Where do folks typically fall in terms of their years in practice? What sort of things may they have been doing to get themselves to start working with you? What do you typically see from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's a really broad range. We have, new practitioners who have employment agreements that they need us to take a look, could even be their first job. We have people who are, many, many years in practice who've only been employees and are now taking a leap and forming their own business. And then we have kind of the in between, right? So people, from beginning to, the end of their career, in the middle of their career, just everywhere, is who we help though.
Excellent. And so for the providers that are listening to this episode, it doesn't matter where you may be in your career. If you're thinking about taking that step into owning and operating your own practice, or need any sort of legal consultation services, that this is a fantastic resource for you. I'd love to learn, and I'm sure the audience would love to learn more about what got Langia Law into supporting advanced practice entrepreneurs that are pursuing these different things like practice ownership.
Yeah, Sarah Schickman is the founder of our firm. She actually started her part of her background is she had a med spa location and grew that from 1 to 12 locations, and then realized there's kind of a need in the market to help practitioners, who are doing this to understand you can do this. Some people don't even know, they can own a practice in their state. And that's kind of how the idea was born. And then, from that, it was realizing all the different types. So not just med spas, but mental health practices, pediatric, all kinds of different practices, and helping people live their dreams that way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that need, especially with how independent practice for advanced practice providers, nurse practitioners in particular, has expanded and grown over the last decade or so. These services are obviously ones that are much more needed. I think can you talk about some of maybe the nuances state to state or different things that happen there? And then more so, how can somebody who is interested in working with you be best prepared to do that? What sort of ducks in a row, if you will, can they have ready to go so that they hit the ground running?
Yeah, and what you kind of nailed it with the independent practice. So first it's figuring out, in your state, if you have independent practice, you can own a practice, right? And then what does that look like? Do you still need to collaborate with a physician? Do you not need to collaborate with a physician? In states where you can have independent practice, and this is such a ever evolving area of the law. So we have a lot of content and we're keeping up with this. What I'm telling you today could be different for a state next week. That's
Yes.
how quickly all of this is moving. And then, we also help with MSO structures, so management services organization in states where advanced practitioners cannot outright own practices, and helping you understand that way, you essentially will own the practice, but the physician will own the clinical assets and what that looks like in those states.
Got it. And then in terms of when somebody gets to that point of wanting to work with you guys, what from like a document standpoint or things that you all would need to know off the bat, what sort of things can they have ready so that they can turn that right over to get going?
Yeah, so when you come to us, it's understanding, first we set up a call, we do some background, what you're looking to do, what you want your practice to look like, who you're hiring. So depending on who you're hiring, what we can draft employment agreements or 1099, and understanding the difference if you need to have an employment agreement versus a 1099 contractor agreement is really important. If you have a collaborative medical director or physician, we take care of drafting the supervision collaboration agreements and what it looks like from a supervision standpoint. What percentage of charge should the medical director be reviewing, and getting those in place. And another big piece of this is also understanding the scope of practice laws. So what can you do in this state? What can you delegate to someone below you to do? And it's so state specific. And so it's, really important to have the guidance of what you can do in those states.
Love it. Yeah, and that's what I've seen is one of the most difficult things is just what you said. It's ever evolving, right? What we may be talking about now could be different tomorrow,
Right,
could be
right.
different next week, next month. And so trying to have as a provider, I think your finger on the pulse with that and sort of being up to speed with what's going on in your particular geographic location is what's most important. And then based on that, the different pathways that you have. If you can go independent practice, it's certainly a little bit more of a direct route, I think. Whereas in other states where you're collaborating, there's probably a few more things that you need to do to be ready to go. But that's it. I think the advice to providers is sort of have that ready to go and know what comes along with that. Where I'd love to steer the conversation now is in terms of individuals, what are some of the things that they can do, and what do you recommend from a legal standpoint for them to have so that they can protect themselves should any issues arise, or somebody comes to them and says you're not in compliance, or you get that knock
Yeah.
on your door or that letter in the mail that is a little bit scary to receive. What are some things that folks can do if that situation arises, or what can they do to prepare themselves so that that situation doesn't arise?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, one of the most important things is having the right paperwork, and a lot of that is consents and protocols, and those need to be written. So you need to, be giving patients consents that are compliant with the laws. If you're using products that aren't FDA approved, there should be a disclaimer in there. What we do at Lingia is we have these already curated consents that we provide to our clients, and we know, these are compliant consents. It has the language we want to see. It helps, limit liability, mitigate risk. HIPAA forms, really important, making sure clients are signing those. And it's a range. We talk about social media. A lot of patients are, putting before and after, or practitioners are putting patients before and afters on there, and we want to see a consent. We don't want someone to come back and say, hey, I know you blocked out my eyes, but that's my face, and I said you can't use that photo, right? And we see that, and that's where people get in trouble. So it's limiting liability from your own patients, but also from the board too. And board wise, if the board comes in, we want to see everything in writing. We have handbooks, we have protocols, and just all of that stuff there. And you can say, hey, here it is, and I'm in compliance.
Yeah, and so it's once again having as much as you can ready to go. I guess my follow-up question to that is, what is sort of like the biggest risk that somebody has with owning and operating their own practice? And have you seen any examples or things where it hasn't necessarily gone according to plan, and what folks may have had to have done to correct potential mistakes that have happened?
Yeah, I think a lot is the failure to fully understand the scope of practice. So, in good faith, people are practicing and think, we do a lot of work with med spas. So, for example, we have people who have estheticians that they've hired, and sometimes they think they can do more than they can, and they're responsible for supervising the esthetician. And in that state, an esthetician, let's say, can't do microneedling, and the board comes in and says, hey, why are they doing this? And it's, you know, it's because they didn't know. It's not because they're trying to be sneaky or anything like that. It's really understanding, because there's so many quirky things in so many states. In some states, tattoo artists can do microneedling, right? So it's
Right.
just kind of understanding those quirky rules, and who can do what, and making sure you're within your scope of practice. In certain states, you might need an MD or a DO physician to collaborate with you to even do some certain things in those states.
Yeah, and that that's the toughest thing. It's not standardized, right? So I think the best part of working with a firm like yours is, I'm going to assume you're going to get somebody, no matter what state or location they're in, the resources that they need so that they're compliant from their geographical sort of location, which is great. I know this question is going to come up from our listeners, so we have to ask it. What are sort of the costs and things that come along with working with the firm? And how does that go in terms of the services that are provided? Is it like a monthly check-in call that you have? Is it more so, communication back and forth? What's the overall process sort of look like from that standpoint?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So we work on memberships, and you can find more information on our website. And so the memberships are 1 year memberships, and there are three different types, and it depends on what your needs. If you're a sole practitioner, you would be the basic membership, right? If you have 15 locations, you would be the top membership, and we
Right.
tailor it that way. And as your needs grow and things come up. So part of that is, we'll get you set up. You're, getting a new practice. You're going to own this practice, and what do I do? All is you have a location and you're ready to roll. You know how to be a practitioner, and so it's what do I do next? And so within that membership, we do the work of getting you set up, getting the contracts, entity formation, really important. You should never own a practice as an individual. It's really important to have an LLC or a PLLC, depending what state you're in place for the setup, and then getting those contracts together. Another part is, if you say, hey, I want to do these 10 procedures, what we do is we confirm you can do these, and here are the other, RNs can do these, or RNs can't do these procedures, and the other practitioners within your practice. And then you can continue your membership after a year. It's just the initial 1 year, and it's like a retainer, an upfront payment, and then there are no, monthly payments during the year.
Got it. That's great. And where can folks go? Lengialaw.com, or is there another website? Where do folks go for that?
Yeah, so just go right to lingealaw.com and up on the top it says memberships. If you click on that, it'll lay out, it's a very detailed page, what the memberships include. We have the pricing right on there so you can see the pricing of the memberships. And when you come on as a client, the first thing we do is what we call a kickoff call. And so the kickoff call is kind of the overview where we get a blueprint and we understand from you, here's what your practice is going to look like, or if you're selling a practice, here's what you want it to look like. And we make our blueprint. Okay, here are the immediate steps, here are your steps, and we triage what's right now, let's do this. And then, maybe in 2 months is here something that you want to do.
Got it. And when those kickoff calls happen, what do you see as maybe some of the concerns or things that may be scaring advanced practice providers? Is there any sort of common theme that you see amongst that?
Yeah, I think it can be overwhelming, and I think that's really natural. For a lot of clients who come to us, this is something they've always wanted to do, and they're finally taking this leap to do it. And maybe they've done some chat GPT research or something like that, and they're seeing so much information, right? And sometimes chat GPT pulls from different states and they're, getting misinformation on there, and they just don't know what it looks like. The other part is, will it be mobile? Will it be, a physical space? And when people come to us, sometimes they're not even sure. And so, we talk about how that looks in some states, if you can have certain mobile practices. And then, we'll take a look at leases because sometimes people come to us as clients and say, hey, I thought I liked the space, but here's my, 800-page lease. And now I'm freaking out because I don't know, this looks kind of intense. And I don't know if I should commit to, being in the space for a few years. And, we know the market for what leases look like and pay and kind of those things. And, when people have medical directors, we help people connect with medical directors. We have a list we share with clients of people who are medical directors. So sometimes one of the issues, people come to us and they say, I need a medical director, but I don't know anybody. And so that's something that, we assist with. And in certain states, certain professions need to be medical directors, depending on the type of practice.
Excellent. So it's great that you all have some of those additional resources and things that folks might need to be able to get themselves going and open those doors for them, which is great. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the team and folks that you have working at Lingia Law. Can you talk about when somebody gets started with you, who might they be working with? Is it an attorney? Is there and who's involved with that typically once you get started?
Sure, yeah. So we put 3 attorneys for every client. The reason we do that is so that we can be as responsive as possible. If one attorney's not there and you're just getting an out of office message, we want you to know there are 2 other people there who can help you. Depending what state you're in, we match you with an attorney who's licensed in that state so they understand the state specific laws more closely than an attorney who's not licensed in that state. And then we have a number of support staff. So we have paralegals and legal assistants. We have a formation clerk who's one of her main jobs is will assist you in forming those entities and getting tax ID numbers. And it's kind of like a one-stop shopping, right? We can do all that stuff for you, and we have a number of people on the team to do that. And we're all scattered across the country with actually a couple international employees as well.
So as I know, and working with clients all over the country and not so much the world, but those time zones can get you, and depending on where you
It's
may be, availability is great. So the fact that you have a full service team available to folks, your questions are going to be answered. Your ability to keep moving forward is not going to be stalled. And NPACE, having worked with Lingia Law and your team, we know that when we have questions or we're working on the partnership that we have together, it's always fast moving and we're on track, which is great. Just a few final things to wrap up here, Sarah. Can you talk about, or sorry, I just said Sarah instead of Samara.
we get
I'm
that a
sorry
lot.
about
They're,
that.
they're 2 letters off, so
All right,
oftentimes we'll
Samara.
get confused.
I just blurted that out there. My apologies. Can you talk about the blog that's on Lingia Law and some of the resources and things that folks may find there?
Yeah, so we put out a lot of content. So one piece is the blog. It's probably weekly we update it. And this is, throughout the country as major laws come down and major regulations. And so, one week we'll have non-competes. Here's what you should know. One week, we'll have, are you owning a practice in Texas? This bill is pending. And so we stay really closely following the laws. And so this is for our clients. We send them, separately kind of blast about the new laws. And then, publicly we share the blog with people. And so they can, kind of have a snippet of, hey, this is the law you need to know. And we also do webinars too. So, for example, GLP-1's kind of a hot topic. And so, people are always asking us, hey, can I do this? Can I not do it? Am I getting in trouble? If I want to do it, what do I need to do? And so, that was a recent webinar that we did. And a lot of the webinars are based on the questions we get from our own clients. And so, if we're getting questions one month about specifically a certain topic, then we realize, hey, there's, high interest for this topic. Let's talk about it and help people and open it to questions.
Excellent. I think that's great to allow an opportunity for providers to come together and have that access. Where can folks go to potentially sign up for those webinars, and any final things that you would like the advanced practice providers to know about the firm, what you guys do, and where they can potentially find more information on working with you if interested?
Yeah, so you can go right to our website, lingealaw.com, and on that website, you'll see a link. You can actually book a free consultation. And so it's a 15-minute consultation where, you'll tell us a little bit of your background, some of your needs, and we can tell you how we can help you, with some of the things we talked about today or otherwise. And then the webinars are once you sign on as a client, we have those live webinars and recorded versions too. I know people are busy and can't always tune into the live webinar at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday, and that's fine.
Yes.
But we share those with clients once they come aboard.
Love it. Love it. So, unbelievable resources from Lingia Law. If you're a provider and you've been looking to take that leap and start your own practice, or really if you need any sort of legal consultation, Lingia Law is a fantastic resource to be able to go to. As Samara just mentioned, right on lingialaw.com, you can pretty much find everything that you're looking for. And Samara, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule and for being with us today. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about this very important topic with all of our listeners. And we want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in to today's episode. And just want to mention a few final things here to our listeners. You can always go to npace.org to find more information on all things NPACE and our Learning Center, which is learn.npace.org, with several on-demand content and courses available. We are an ANCC and now an AAPA accredited provider offering continuing education for NPs as well as PAs. And once again, npace.org for all of the information that you need. We also have a partner feature on Lingia Law right on npace.org and our partners and perks page. So if you find them via NPACE, you can go ahead and click right over and get right over to the resources that they have. Samara, thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great upcoming holiday season. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have a great
All
day.
right, take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.